I don't know if you would necessarily call this guy a sleeper, but like I think previously, like a year ago, if he had somehow made the national meet, we would have been like, no way, no shot. But I like.
Hello, and welcome to the Stride Report podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Sahlman. How's it going, man?
Been the most important podcast of the season. I think we've had like 5 interruptions trying to figure out how, like not having interruptions and not having, people in the background. And there was a work and construction at your office. And it's just like chef's kiss for how TSR has to deal with technological and podcast hoops pretty much all the time.
Yeah, we were about to start, and then they come fixing the roof, and I have people like walking on the ceiling above me, and we're like, this isn't gonna quite work out so well. But you know what? We soldier on. We've done enough of these podcasts at this point that we can figure it out. We're not dealing with the same amount of technical issues as we used to when we were first starting out, which I'm sure early listeners can remember well. But we are talking about the national championship this podcast. We have done a lot of these, and we've kind of gotten down to a science here. We are going to run through each of the events on the men and women's side, starting in the order of the finals that they are occurring. So we'll start out with the women and men's 5Ks. We will discuss the favorites in each event, the dark horses and the wild cards for each of these events. I think favorites and dark horses are fairly self-explanatory. Wild cards can kind of be whatever you want. It's kind of a dealer's choice for Garrett and I to discuss some names that we maybe have not gotten to yet. But Garrett, before we get going, Apple and Spotify, give us a rating and review. We have been woefully low in the last couple of weeks.
Woefully.
Let's get those numbers up right before the national championship. And we're going to be giving you guys a great national championship review and recap podcast. So just get them in before that.
Also, I'm going to push back on the wild card component. I actually have criteria for the wild card component, which is I think we have in the past siphoned it down to like 2 different descriptions, which is anyone who could make a move or a tactical decision or have a race approach that really opens up the race in a certain way or really changes or alters the race in a really dramatic way. Maybe that's someone who likes to be really aggressive with their front running, right? Yep. Or wild card is someone who we just don't know enough about, someone who is pretty inconsistent or like variable with their race tactics, or we still don't really have a good gauge on how they're looking going into the national meet. So I think that's the best way that I would say wild card is. But yes, in the meantime, also leave a 5-star rating and review. Ben, 5,000 meters. Let's waste no time and let's kick it off. I will let you begin with the women's 5Ks. Let's begin. Who are your favorites? This feels pretty self-explanatory. Who are your favorites?
There's 2 favorites in the women's 5K, and I think everybody knows their names. It is Jade Hedengren and Doris Lemngole, both sporting seed times well under 15 minutes. Our first matchup there's a very good chance we see 2 women well under 15 minutes at the national championship as well.
You think so?
I do think there's a chance. I think the way that both of these women are going to want to run, I think they're going to. I mean, you have a lot of women who have run under 15:10. Don't even give them a chance, right? And that seems to be in the DNA, especially of Hedengren at this point, of just pushing the pace. And so I do think we are going to see a very quick final. Now, is it going to be a 14:49, 14:50? I don't think so, but I do think we could see something in the 14:55-ish range when it's all said and done. These 2 women are just too talented, and I just don't think they have it in them to let this be really slow through the first couple of K. So, I mean, I'm sure you don't disagree with the favorites. Who do you think is the top contender for the number 3 spot?
Oh man, I don't even like that question. Is it Sydney Vaught? Is
I
is
think
it really
so. I
Sydney
do.
Vaught?
I think so. I mean, coming into the season, we would have certainly said, I feel like we would have probably said Pamela Kosgei. We just haven't quite seen her at her best. It feels like this indoor season, and that might be a little unfair considering she's run 15:05 this season. But I do think the way Vaught is coming off of that SEC championship win in 15:02, it's hard to say that anybody else is at that level to be able to compete in what I believe will be a very quick 5K.
Well, and I agree. I also think like it's all the intangibles that she has shown. It's not just one race; it's the lead up and everything that she has done. If Hedengren is going to, be the race aggressor, which I think you and I both agree she will be, then we saw from Vaught that she can thrive in fast paced environments, especially over 5,000 meters. So it kind of benefits her. I want to go back to Doris and Jane though. Does Jane it feels like will probably be the aggressor as you and I both said here. But doesn't it make more sense to let Doris be the aggressor or let someone else be the aggressor? I mean, she has 422 mile speed. Like doesn't shouldn't that matter?
I agree with you. And I think it'll be interesting to see if she's kind of learned her lesson a little bit in terms of like there have been some situations where she has pushed the pace and gotten caught. And if you can run 422 in the mile, like you said, you don't have to lead the whole way. And that doesn't mean you're leaving it to the last 2 or 3 laps, like 400, 600. You can kick from a mile out. That's fine. Like it just don't lead for 3 miles and then get caught in the last 0.1, right? Like let's let someone else lead for
True.
2 miles and then just run a 430 last mile. I don't think anybody's going to touch you. Like I think she has that type of ability. And I get it if she doesn't want to leave it to a kicker's race, but just make give your give yourself a little bit more of a mental break by not having to lead and be out front for that long.
Do we agree that Doris of the two is probably the most favored?
Yes, yes, I would put her as the slight favorite. I'm curious in your mind, what is more likely? Like, would you? I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we're going to talk about these same two women in the 3K. Is Do you feel like Doris is more of the favorite in the 5K and Jane's more of the favorite in the 3K, or did you? How do you kind of split the difference there?
Um, I well, I don't think there's a scenario where Jane's viewed. I think Jane is the 5K favorite if Doris if the pace is slacking, right? If it comes down to a kicker's race, right? If it comes down to something more tactical. The 3K, you would think it's more Jane, but like I just don't. Is that race like I don't know. I remember seeing Doris outrun Jane and it just being so
Yeah.
convincing in my mind. It really just depends. I just think Doris is flat out the favorite in both of them. Jane is the only other one who you could realistically say is a favorite. And the only scenario I see Jane winning is if the 5K becomes tactical enough where that miles comes into play.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I think we both agree. You have two favorites. Lemngole is like the 1A, Hedengren probably seen as the 1B at the moment. At some point, I mean, not necessarily at some point, but it feels like Hedengren is coming, right? And it's like, will it be this championships or only the next? It really feels like she is on her
It
way. But
does.
hey, Lemngole has done nothing that we would say she's gone down a level, certainly. Who is your dark horse in this field? This one's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I will go. Can I gotta be honest, I don't really love like a lot of these like results here. I don't love like a lot of these entries. I have concerns about a lot of them, and yet at the same
Yeah.
time, I'll go Iska Chalangat. I like
I
Oklahoma
had
State.
written her name down as well as
Yeah,
one of my options. Yep.
yeah. She, just aggressive. Not I won't say necessarily aggressive, but like can be aggressive. It often thrives on fast paces, just aerobically dominant. I think this race is going to favor her. Um, I don't know. I just have I have concerns about her in her first indoor national meet. Like there's a lot of different things where you're like, hey, be careful, be careful. And I just don't care. I just like Escatzolinga.
I think in terms of, like, upside of anybody on this list outside of, like, the top 2 or 3 names we've talked about, it might be Chilenga, and I think that's why I had her name circled as well. The other name that I'll go with is Mercyline Kirwa. She
Oh,
just beat Chilenga at,
yep.
Big 12s in the 5K. Now, again, that was a much slower race. She was a couple seconds behind, I think Chilenga as well in a faster race. But again, a lot of talent. You don't really know what you're going to get in the first NCAA Indoor National Championship experience, but the talent is clearly there. And I think the willingness to mix it up is as well. So I think both of those names are in the very similar vein. For me, and I'll go ahead and jump to the wild card. For me, I think
Yeah.
one of the more interesting runners in this race is Diana Cheritage.
Took one of my two. Yep.
We've seen her have some very high highs from winning the Big Ten championships in cross country, 31st at nationals in cross country, and I feel like we both thought that was a down day for her, right? She hasn't raced a ton this indoor season, but she's run 15-13. She's coming off of a second place finish and a little bit more of a tactical 5K at Big Tens to teammate Shalana Yildiz, and that result made a lot of sense to me. But in a quicker race, I think there's a world where she can compete at a very, very high level, and I feel like we just haven't talked about her hardly at all this year.
I would agree. I think she's certainly one of mine. I mean, you remember, the DNF at nationals last spring, right? Like clearly this insanely talented aerobic, like just beast of a runner. And yet like just some of the performances are just so all over the place. Like she can solo really fast times, but like she can like when she's in competitive fields, it's a little weird and unique, but you can tell that like she's able to step up and deliver at least a few times. So a really weird runner. I never understand like what I'm getting out of her. My like wild card in this would be Stanford Sophia Kennedy.
Mm,
Um,
good.
she hasn't been bad. She hasn't been running poorly. It's not like she's been doing any of that this season. But even back into the fall and up to now, she's only been good and not quite great. And I'm still waiting for her to be great. Now, the 15:07 that she ran over 5,000 meters at the Husky Classic was great, a great, great time. But I've yet to see that on a consistent basis this academic year, period. Right? It looks like she's fit and talented, and like you can tell that the talent's still there, but for whatever reason, there's like this consistency intangible. There's this nuanced like it factor that I can't really place, and I don't know where it is compared to last year. Could she get fourth place? Yes, she could. Could she get 15th? I also think that's possible. Like the outcomes are pretty substantial and pretty variable, and I don't really have a good idea what to think.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like she's taken that next logical step forward in her career that we were very much expecting her to when we were talking about her this time last year, right? We were like, "Hey, is national champion is a national title in the cards for her in her career?" And that didn't seem like a crazy question at that point, but at this stage this year, we just haven't seen the progression to be able to say that that is something that we would ever expect. Again, that could change in a big way this weekend if we see a nice performance in the 5K. Let's move on to the men's 5K. I'm curious to know how many favorites you have in your top tier here.
I thought about it. You
Yeah.
know, I'm sitting by myself. I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm like talking to my roommate Will, who has no idea about anything running. What do you think of Colton Sands? He's like, who? I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I've decided that I have 3,
Yes, I love
and
it.
it's
Thank
Marco
you.
Langen, it's Haptem Samuel, and it is Colton Sands. Colton Sands has done everything he needs to this season to be viewed as a national title threat, and I will say he is one of 3 men who could realistically win the national title.
I love it. Yep, I agree with you. I just don't see how you would substantially favor anyone over Sands at this point.
Who's the
I'm not to say
favorite of
that
the
he's
3?
the favorite. I think Langen is probably the
Yeah,
slight favorite,
I
but I
agree.
don't feel good about that.
I also agree. Yeah, I
Because
agree, 100%.
here's and I already did my predictions for this, which you can go to thestridereport.com and see. But the way I see this, like the scenario that I see happening in this, the way that this finishes is Hampton Samuel like goes to lead with 2 laps left. He's pushing, he's pushing. Marco Langen just like is trying to catch every single move. He's pushing hard. He's pushing hard. He gets ahead of him with like a lap to go and it's just pushing, pushing. And like at like 50 meters to go or 100 meters to go, like rounding that last bend, his arms are flailing. And here comes Colton Sands. And he just overtakes, like he overtakes him fully. And it's a very reminiscent finish of what we saw at Boston in the 3K, but that feels like the most likely scenario to me. Um, but I think that Langen just has the ability of running a more multiple type of race than Sands. Like if this is really quick, I worry about Sands being able to hang. I'm not at all concerned about that with Langen.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I 100% like I see that like of those 3, Langen and Haptom are the same, like near the same tier.
Yeah.
You know, like the 1A and 1B's kind of argument there, and then Sands being just a little bit down in terms of the percentages. Th- I think it's going to be fast, but I don't think it's going to be super fast.
I agree.
Like, I think it's going to be like under 13:20, but I don't think it's going to be under 13:10, which I think
Yep.
is kind of like last year. I don't know what last year's winning time was, but I think it's going to be pretty similar. Um, I, I don't even know. Like, I haven't even made my predictions yet. So you can check these out, by the way. Our predictions on the site will be coming some point Wednesday. I don't know when on Wednesday, but some point on Wednesday. So if you're listening to this, the predictions may not be out yet, but they should be some point on Wednesday. So stay tuned. Trying to get a bajillion writers to get all of their All American picks in is usually really challenging. Shocker. So just be a lookout there on Wednesday. But I haven't even decided yet. Like I thought about this race in particular for like a week, and I can't. I still don't have an answer as to like who I want to win.
Yeah, so the winning time last year was 13:11. Brian Massau just edging out Halfton Samuels. So I think it's going to be maybe 13-15 ish kind of race, and it just feels like Langen could play this a similar kind of spoiler to Halfton. But I mean, we have seen Halfton finish races really, really well this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And it feels a little disrespectful for me to say like kind of talk about him as almost like the rabbit that they'll be chasing because he's someone that can chase down people as well. And I think what we saw from him in cross country was a really nice step in the right direction. I feel a lot better about him in the 5K than any other event this weekend. And he certainly, I think you would have to say he feels like he knows how to win. He has that little bit of a more
Mm,
intangible bit to him than a Langen and a Sands, who obviously Langen was at this level last year. He kind of has to refine the way that he like closes races, even with the speed that he has. And then Sands is just kind of brand new to being at this
yeah.
level, so he doesn't quite have that experience that Samuel does.
Who is your sleeper in this field?
I this is probably going to be a pretty popular selection, I would imagine. If we did a poll on this on social, I think a lot of people would go with Tavion Kitching, who
Mm,
I think everybody or Kitchen, who everybody loves, and I think this type of race might not set up spectacularly for him. I think a time trial environment would be great for him, but he's not afraid to put his nose in there, and I
Yep.
think he's going to be in contention with like 400, 600 left to go, and I think that's going to end again. How he's able to finish, I don't have a ton of confidence, but I do think there's a world where he's like ends up finishing third, picking up the pieces of someone who falls off, and I just because he'll be in that position, and I don't feel quite as strongly about anybody else in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, he does seem like the pretty obvious, like, quote unquote sleeper
Yeah,
pick. He's the 11th seed out of 16. He's he's a freshman, so like you wouldn't usually count on freshmen, but like you want to look at him compared to like a lot of the names in this field.
yeah,
And I think you could be like, hey man, like who else are you really feeling that great about? I don't know if you would necessarily call this guy a sleeper, but like I think previously, like a year ago, if he had somehow made the national meet, we would have been like, no way, no shot. But I like Ernest Chariot of Arkansas.
mm,
I think the
yeah,
way that he has developed the season, he's been way more consistent, way more comfortable. He has clearly gained control of his own insane fitness. Like, how many times have we seen international names come over and we can tell they're like, whoa, look at these insane times they ran. And then they struggle on championship races. Well, Chariot had never really been that great on the indoor oval until now. And you can see the comforts there for him. I think this is going to matter in a race. It's going to be fast, but not too fast. It's not going to be overly tactical. There's a lot of names where we have like major question marks about. And I think like, hey, you want to tell me that there's a guy who could get in that top three and like really mix things up? I could see him placing as high as third place.
yeah, yeah. That's totally fair. Who do you have as a wild card?
I think this is like a very if you put a poll on social and we said this, do we want to say on three? Do we want to say on three?
Oh, interesting. I don't feel like there's a
You don't? Oh, I think
I,
this is so obvious.
okay. All right. Let's do it. Three,
Do you have
two.
your name? Hold on, so
Yeah, I
you
got
have
my
your
name.
name?
Yeah.
Okay,
Three,
I'll go on your mark.
two, one. Kelvin Chariot.
Kelvin Chariot. Yeah,
Okay,
there
there
you
you
go.
go. Okay, all right.
Yeah, nice. Why, if that didn't line up, just line it up for us. But Kelvin Chariot of Florida, hyper aggressive front runner, wants to be at the front, not afraid to push the pace. SECs, if you watch this 5K race, you're like, what are you doing? But also to like Nick Buccini of Arkansas, what are you doing? Like he's really talented, but like you can tell, like he's just not totally comfortable on the indoor oval, but he's just so supremely aerobically talented where it just didn't matter in order to get him to the national meet. He could be gunning from the very start. He could make a surge midway. He could be a top half All American. He could get dead last. I have no idea. So give me Kelvin Chariot.
Yeah, I agree. The upside is pretty much unmatched by anybody else in this field outside of the top group, and also he might finish last.
You could.
There's a wide range of outcomes. Moving us on to the DMRs, and we're going to start on the women's side. Now, projecting and predicting the DMR is a practice of who do you think is actually going to run and how good are people at doubling. So, with that said, who is your favorite? Because I mean doing the predictions on this one was not fun. I did not enjoy doing the predictions on either the men or women DMRs, honestly.
No. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think BYU is out of consideration. You don't have Jane Hedengren, and it's unlikely, not impossible, but it's unlikely that Chamberlain will. It's unlikely that Chamberlain will be in this DMR. If that's the case, I don't see BYU winning. And
I
I
agree.
just am now this year, unlike last year, Chamberlain's doing the mile 3K double. So that's important. Oklahoma State, I could see winning the DMR national title. You and I were speaking about this beforehand. With the DMR and the mile prelims have more time between
Yeah.
each other now, approximately 3 hours compared to an hour and 50 minutes. You get an hour and 10 minutes rest. You get 70 minutes extra rest between that. And Bila Chipkuri comes back. I think it matters. Oklahoma State, I think, can win the national title. Oregon, I do think, can win the national title depending on how the mile prelims shake out for Shalana Yildiz and Wilma Nielsen. They both doubled back from the mile prelims last year. I would think that they're going to do the same this year. I like Oregon as my other national title threat. And I guess that's it. I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, those
So
two?
I had originally put, I had like Oregon, I think, kind of on their own a little bit, and then I had South Carolina, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State kind of right behind them. But I guess the more that you're talking about it, I think Oklahoma State probably deserves a bump up in that group. Now, I like South Carolina. You got El Badra, who's going to be fresh going into that. Betty Kipkore fresh for Iowa State. Now, are they at the level of obviously what you're going to be presumably getting from Oklahoma State and Oregon? No, maybe not even with those women with a race in their legs. Probably not. But if you're talking about teams that are fresh and ready to go, I feel like they are probably the top of the list. But this is, I mean, this is super challenging to fill out the rest. Is there a, like, if we're talking about dark horse, could we see a situation like we saw with Stanford where it's like, hey, you're not expecting someone to double, or hey, the lineup looks a lot different than you expect, and all of a sudden they're charging up the leaderboard?
NC State.
Mm.
NC State.
Yeah,
Because if
I
you
like that.
put Engelhard on that anchor, anything is kind of possible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, now granted, they would have to figure out ways to like stay competitive through the first few legs, which is way easier said than done. But
Yeah.
who is that? Is that Napoleon? Like
Probably.
that. That's where I'm not entirely sure. Um, but I guess NC State just because I've seen how dangerous Engelhard is.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, the other one that came to mind is like, I mean, it's probably not fair to call him a dark horse, but like, if we're out on BYU as a favorite, hey, if they do somehow put Chamberlain in there and she's running 4 races this weekend, in her second race, can she put together another national title winning anchor leg?
Yeah, I mean that's the obvious like what if.
Yeah.
Um, I just it just seems like I just seems like a lot, man. I don't know.
Yes, it does.
Just seems
As
like a lot.
far as wild card here, and this is hard to do in these DMRs, where would you go?
Mm. Do you have one of yours? Because I'm stuck between two, and I don't want to be duplicative.
Um, I like kind of in the same vein that we've been talking about. Florida is an interesting
Yep.
team for me. Claire Segal as potentially, if she doubles back, that's really interesting. And then the rest of that lineup is just pretty rock solid. So I like what they could potentially do, but also like if you're trying to double back a freshman who isn't like at the elite level, could we see a blow up happen there? I think there's a large range of outcomes for this Florida squad.
That was one of my two, for all the reasons you said. I mean, like, also, like, what if we get the very best versions of Morley and Tia Wilson? Like, what if Stegall doesn't double back and we get the
Right.
absolute best versions of Morley and Tia Wilson? Well, that's a 426 miler and a 430 miler, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, Florida's really good. Excuse me, without their ace. So my other one would be North Carolina, where it's like, hey, what were to happen if
Yeah.
Vera Sojberg's scratched, right? Could she go all in for the DMR? She could, she could go all in for the 3K, but she could also do the DMR 3K double, right? What were to happen if something crazy like Michaela Page double back from the prelims, right? What would happen there? Right? Sydney Massarelli, I think, is one of the more underrated women in the NCAA, at least on the East Coast this year. Um, I like North Carolina as like a wild card, but also I just there's also understandable questions with them.
Well, Sjoberg is just one of the more confounding runners of this season. She had one of the best 2025s of anyone in the country. If you look at like her outdoor from last year going into this cross country season, she improved her stock more than almost anybody, but we just haven't seen that athlete, I think, this winter. But if she can get back to that level, it's hard for me not to imagine North Carolina coming out and finishing top 4 in this race. If she is in it and they have that rest of their squad firing, it feels like they could certainly rocket up the standings there. Anything else before we move on to the men?
Nope. Let's move on to the men.
All right, moving on to the men. Favorites in your mind for the men's DMR here?
Um, I have 3 definitely, and I have 4. Yeah, okay, throw in 4. I'll make it 4. Do you wanna try to
All
see if you
right.
can guess
Yeah, I was
my
gonna say,
4?
let's see if I can get them. Um, well, one of these teams is in here that we did not expect due to Colin Sahlman deciding to scratch out of the 800 and the mile and running the 3K and presumably the DMR. So I'm putting NAU as one of those teams. I have Oregon as another. I think you have Virginia Tech. And then I think you probably have Michigan. Is those the
Mm,
4?
you got all 4 correct. That's
Oh,
correct.
4. Nice, nice.
Yeah, you know me so well. I agree. Here's the 4th I was unsure on, and that was Oregon. And it's because if you look at all of the Oregon replacements on their lineup, Simeon Beerbaum will probably be fresh because he has nothing else but a
Yep,
3K, so he'll probably do the DMR 3K. Makes total sense there, right? But Elliot Cook, Thomas Palfrey, Matthew Erickson, and James Harding are 4 of their total 8 options that they have for
yep.
this relay. All of those guys are going to be coming off of prelims, either mile prelims or 800-meter prelims. That leaves you with Kane Evans and, of course, their 400 runner, whoever that may be, right? And then one guy who is definitively doubling back, no questions asked. Now, with the extra time, how much does that really matter? Who knows? But, like, that's why I was, like, a little on the fence, but also if you put Elliot Cook on the anchor after he runs a 4:10 mile in the prelims,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, "Yeah, never mind, then they can win the national title." So I'm going with those 4.
I just think there's so many options for Oregon that they can just be like, "Hey, how you feeling? Like, did you have an easy prelim? All right, you're into the DMR." It's like they almost have like the like you said, almost 4 guys that you could almost interchangeably move in and out of this DMR and to varying levels of success. But I just think they have so many options, and there's not really a team that you would say is overwhelmingly like clear of the rest of this field. I think NAU with a fresh Sahlman, like for me, becomes the favorite. But if and obviously Ford Washburn should be able to provide them a good 1200 leg. It's like, but what do they look like in between those 2 legs? And do they lose a lot of ground in between those between the 12 and the 16? I think is the big question. Whereas you don't have quite that same question mark with a Virginia Tech, with a Michigan. In Michigan, I think it all comes down to how good is Trent McFarland at doubling, right?
Mhm.
Can he double effectively? And that's their entire that's their national championship hopes rely solely on that.
Completely agree. I don't wanna overanalyze this because, A, it could all change pretty dramatically, and B, I don't wanna give too much away, so go check out our predictions on the site when they come out at some point on Wednesday. Who is sleeper, your sleeper pick?
I think I think it's Penn State. I just
Mm.
I think it's just an interesting group. How many people will be doubling? I'm curious to see what that like who they actually put on it, right? I mean, you have a bunch of guys who qualified at the 800. I just think there's too much talent there for them to just not be in the picture. Now, I mean, maybe they just kind of dog it if a lot of the guys make it on to the 800 finals, right? And they don't want to put another race in their legs. But I mean, we've just seen this group perform so well throughout the entire season. It feels like that should carry over to a really good DMR performance as well.
I would agree. I think that's probably a pretty fair result. I like Nextloff a lot on that anchor. In terms of like my sleeper, like guy, like who are the ones that I like? I think I like Wisconsin.
Yep.
Seeded what ninth in this field. They are going to be completely fresh, basically. I don't know if Jalen Williams, their 400 guy, is going to be doubling, but I don't know how much of a dramatic difference that'll make. But Casey, Hilby, and Noakes are all going to be fresh. I don't think either of those guys are the respective best legs or even the top three legs in this field, but they are all consistently really solid or consistently really good. So give me Wisconsin. It's hard to say there's a sleeper in a 12 team field,
Yeah.
but I'll go Wisconsin.
As far as a wild card, who do you have? This is an interesting decision here.
I'm stuck between two. Um, I'll say Washington. Feel like Washington, you could get a variety of different things between Thomas Diamond and between Ruben Reina and like what is Tyler Billiard gonna do? And like Billiard's good enough on his own where like he could make some noise just if those other guys aren't in the relay. But what if they are? What if they do double back? Like how effective will they be? But then is Josiah Tostenson gonna like be in there? Is who else going to be there? Is Owen Powell going to make like some noise? It's really hard to figure out that team. I don't really know what I'm getting out of them. It could be really really good. It could be not so good, and just a lot of like moving parts that I don't like feel particularly great about.
I feel similarly about Arkansas. And basically, this comes down to Brian Masai. Like, what Brian Masai do we see? Do we see the guy who ran, what was it, 352, 353 as an
52. Yep.
352 as an anchor leg? I mean, if we see that guy and he's fresh and ready to roll, like Arkansas becomes someone who could sneak into that top four that we were just talking about realistically. But if he kind of puts down a performance that we would normally expect him to do, 356, something like that, then all of a sudden they could fall pretty far, especially if like they don't have people doubling back like Tyrese Taylor to give them an edge in the 800.
I would agree. I thought about them as well, but I was like, it's more just like one guy than it is the entire relay.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
but that is also like the anchor is half the relay at that point anyway. So, fair enough of a point. Let's move off of the DMR. Where are we going next, Miles?
We're going to the main event of the entire weekend, and that is the women's mile. Just an all-out war between three of the best women in the country in Bila Jepkuri, Riley Chamberlain, and Wilma Nielsen. I think. Do you have anybody else in that favorite group?
Can you repeat those again?
Jepkuri, Chamberlain, and Nielsen.
I have Englehart. Yeah,
You do have Engelhart. Okay.
and I think you could maybe argue Ayildez, maybe.
Yeah, I do think Ayildiz has gotten a little bit gone under the radar a little bit, but I think her Big Ten performances were really, really strong. I still have it just at 3. Like if you're talking about favorites, now I think there's I wouldn't be stunned to say Engelhart or even Ayildiz get in there, but I just think it's those 3 against everybody else. Like this is one of the most loaded women's mile fields that we've ever seen. And I would be pretty surprised to see someone outside of that top trio take home the title.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see a scenario where, like, well, there's scenarios where any of those 3 women are capable of winning, but Engelhart has been so good with her kick. She's been so poised in major fields. She's shown it on more than one occasion. Like the pedigree's immense. I guess there's something about Engelhart that I can't shake of being like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I think she's that good. So I will throw her in there as well among consensus, who was the lone favorite? Like if your life depended on it, who
Yeah.
would most people say?
I feel like most people would go with Nielsen. You have the reigning mile champ, looked very strong throughout this entire season, 421. Yeah, she did obviously lose Big Ten, the Big Ten Mile Championship to her teammate Ayildiz, but that was a much slower race. Those can get a little funky. I feel like the consensus is that Nielsen is best equipped to run in a championship setting and be able to win in nearly any type of race that could be seen. And I think she's probably, and fairly so, viewed as the best tactician in this group as well.
Oh yeah, no, I mean she's definitely the best tactician. I would agree with that 100%. Let's officially give our percentages of like what we think the percentages are for who is to win what the mile national title. So with Nielsen, with Chamberlain, and with um Chip Curry, since those are your favorite
Yep.
three, you only need to give three, and the rest can be like the field can be like 5%. I don't know, whatever you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
What were the percentages you
So
assign?
I actually have Jep Curry and Nielsen at the same. I have them at
Yes.
like 30%
Okay.
each. And then I think I have Chamberlain a step below. Just we haven't seen her at a as an individual, like in the national championships, really put together a great race. Like
A
there's
great
been times where,
race, I'll say that.
sorry, was that?
A great individual race.
Yes, yes, exactly. On an individual side. Yeah, we've seen it in the DMR, certainly. So I'm just like holding on to that a little bit more than probably I should. So I'm gonna give her like a 15% chance. So if my math adds up there, that's 75% chance that you're gonna see one of those three win. And then I think I Yildiz and Engelhart split like maybe they both get like they split like 20% of the rest, and I think the rest of the field has like a 5% chance.
Okay.
Um, what say you?
So you have that as like what 30, 30,
30, 30,
15,
15, 10, 10, and 5,
10, 10,
basically.
10, 10, 5. I'm gonna go man, I think this is tight. Nielsen 25, Jip Curie 20, um Chamberlain 20, what is that? Give me Engelhart 15. So what does that even put me at? That puts me at
I should have been counting this better.
80. Is that 80%?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. I just
Sounds
I
good to
tried
me.
my back. Is that like yeah? So 25. Yeah. So it's 80%, and I think I'd give 10% to Ayildiz, and then 10% to the rest of the field.
Yeah. I think that's fair. How do you envision this race being run? Like, who do you think is going to be the aggressor? Do we think it's going to be slow, fast?
I don't. I I don't know because like I think each of these mile women are like pretty smart enough to be like, hey, I'm not going to be the aggressor.
Yeah.
It makes no sense for me to be the aggressor. Why would I be the aggressor? Even like of all the title contenders we just said, I think they're all smart enough to be like, this doesn't make sense for me to be the sacrificial lamb here. I think it's gonna if it's gonna be fast, it's gonna have to be someone in the rest of the field. And if you look at the rest of the field, like who's pushing that pace? Is it Longisa?
That's like
Maybe?
the name that you could maybe throw out there. I really don't. I'm struggling to think of anybody else who's going to look at this field and say, you know what, I can run away from this group. Like I
It
just
would be
don't see
dumb.
it.
It would be dumb if they did that. If a
Yeah.
and now if you're a non-national title threat, like i.e., one of the five women we didn't mention, you're like, yeah, I'm going to give myself a shot. I made the national meet. These women are untouchable. I'm going to give myself a shot here, which I would appreciate. But any of those five women, I think there's more likely to be tactical than it is to be fast. And I'm gonna say it's one in over 430.
Interesting. Yeah. It's so I mean, we've seen the NCAA record get broken multiple times, and so it's weird to think that this is going to be well off that pace. But I think you're right. I think you're right. There's just no one who's out there. I think it could be a very, I mean, I think we could potentially see a Matthew Centrowitz at the Olympics kind of race
Yeah.
where no one really wants to take it. One of the favorites just ends up in pole position and just chills, and just tries to and holds off everybody by the end by just having the inside rail the entire time, which is an even bigger advantage in an indoor championship. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be very quick. As far as a dark horse, this is a tough group to give a dark horse for, considering the consolidation
Or
of power up
sleeper?
front.
Well,
Or
I
yeah,
guess
sorry,
the sleeper,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
sleeper.
dark horse sleeper. I'm gonna go with someone we haven't really talked about at all, really since she's run this time, and that is Haley Burns. I think uh, maybe more of a wild card, but I think she's someone that could. She's come on strong. She might just go up to the front, not know any better, and just end up in a higher place than we're all expecting.
Yeah, I mean, she's having a great season. I mean,
Yeah.
she'll have to be among our breakout candidates for end of season awards. Like, she's
Yes.
fantastic. She's fantastic. I see the vision. I would probably go sleeper.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
gonna be a
tough.
little bold here. I'm gonna say Berlin Schutz of
Oh
excuse
wow.
me, of Nebraska. She's been really good for the last couple of years, and it wasn't until this season where she has truly elevated and truly taken that next step up. I think she has a lot of really good just intangibles to her. I think momentum's on her side, and I don't think she knows any better, given that this is her first national meet appearance, at least at indoor national. So give me Berlin Schutz of Nebraska.
And then for a wild card, I think it's Rosemary Langisa.
Yep.
I think that's the obvious one, right? She's had such a fantastic season. We just don't know how it's going to translate, right? Like, you could make a good argument for her as being one of the top contenders in most years. I mean, it's just a absolutely loaded year, and even with it being a loaded year, there's kind of that voice in the back of my head, at least. It's like, look out for Longisa. She's put together a fantastic season. How she is able to integrate that with her NCAA experience being what it is, that is the main question.
I would agree. I would agree that I really have no other comments. I think you're
Yeah.
100% right.
Moving on to the men's side, where this is a fascinating group. How many favorites do you have? Is it more or less than 2.5?
Um, I like pretty much no one in this field.
Who
Like
is your
I don't
favorite
think
of the least favorites?
like if you had come to me at the beginning of the season, not even I guess not the beginning of the season, but like now as I look at this the entries now, I'm like there's 16 guys, but I don't know. I don't see like I don't think any of them are going to win the national title. Like I think they're going to
No.
run the race and no one's going to win the national title. Um,
That's my dream when the Knicks and Celtics play each other. No one wins.
I would say, man, I would say 2.5 on the dot, but give me two. I'll give two.
Yeah. Yeah, I for me, I think and I would imagine it's the same as you, it's Martin and McFarland. And then
Yeah.
and not feeling good about it. Probably that your favorites make up less than half of the percent chance to win, very possibly. Which is a probably the only race you can say this about, because this feels wide open. Wide open.
Yeah, I don't love this field. Like the other guys who you could maybe argue as like contenders like George Cootie, Virginia Tech, and Paul Specht of Wake Forest. Those are the other guys who like I like a lot. I like a lot, a lot, a lot. I mean, I love Ruben Reina. I don't know if he's just at national title form. I guess he may be, but I mean, Martin and McFarland. McFarland is the best tactical miler in the NCAA right now. It's not close. I just think what he did at Big Tens, what he's done this season, the win at Tyson Invitational, or was it maybe Arkansas Invite? Arkansas Invite, I think it was. Um, I mean, he's been flat out awesome. Some people have like dubbed him as like the clear or the all national title favorite. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but he's just tactically amazing. And Martin, even at 90%, 95%, that still might be enough for him to win the national title this winter.
Yeah, and I think I did see some reporting from Jonathan Galt that yeah he did go through some sickness earlier in the year, and if that's the case and he just wasn't he didn't have he had some time off running, then like at this point, hopefully he's far enough removed from that, and we're going to see the best of him, right? The ACC's wasn't great for that for that indication, but it also wasn't terrible, right? You're losing to Colton Sands, who we believe is a contender in the longer distances. I think there's certainly a world where Martin holds off the rest of this field. Who is your dark horse here?
Um, this is a little tricky.
Could be pretty much anybody.
It could be pretty much anyone. My sleeper, like I'm going to go back to Paul Specht of Wake Forest. Won the ACC title over Nick Plant, ran really fast through 52. Like I just think he's been awesome this season. Has consistently run really, really well. Give me Wake Forest. Paul Specht of Wake Forest.
Yeah, I like him a lot as well. I think there's like, unlike a lot of our sleepers or dark horses that we've been talking about, there feels like a very realistic scenario where he ends up winning this race. So I would agree with you on that. For me, oh gosh. I mean, it's like I want to say Elliot Cook, but he's like the third seed. Does that even count? Um, give me his teammate Thomas Palfrey. I
Yeah.
like what we've
Yeah.
seen from him. Second place at Big Tens behind Trent McFarland. Obviously a very slow race, but I also could see this being a very slow race.
Yep.
Like who's really pushing the pace here? And you're looking at one of the few guys who's been able to run at least close to McFarland on a couple of different occasions. Run 353, run 739 in the 3K this year. Been a part of a 914 DMR. He's running really, really well this year. I think there's an outside shot for Palfrey to really win it all, which is remarkable to say. As far as your wild card, who do you got?
Isaiah Givens. Isaiah Givens, the
The
top
number one
seed,
seed.
the number one seed. I mean, I feel like the most valid wild card because he
Yeah.
ran 357 at altitude, and that time is his conversion. Like we don't really know exactly how good he is, and like some races this season for him have been better than others and not so
Yeah.
great. Like there's been some mixed bag of results. He was an All-American at this meet last year, but like I struggle to get a gauge on him. I can't figure him out right now.
The DMR performance from Colorado was a little bit of a head scratcher for both Givens and Kip Coach. I'm gonna go with Carter Cutting. I'm very interested to see what Cutting ends up producing. Ran 352 at BU. Has been pretty good all year. Has done a lot of racing. Was won the or no yeah he won the Big 12 championships in the mile. Has looked very good, and I in a field where I don't really know what anybody's gonna do. I feel like he's maybe someone who I at least know is going to be competitive, and that
So is
doesn't
he
feel
your
like a
wild
wild card.
or is he your sleeper?
Yeah, I guess now that I'm talking about it, he probably ends up being more more of a sleeper now that I'm thinking about it, because he feels that like he'll at least be more consistent. Yeah, so why don't I do? I was gonna go wild card Thomas Palfrey, because I do think there's a wide range of scenarios for
Okay.
him. I'll go Carter Cutting now that we're talking about as my sleeper, because I think that feels more accurate.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Let's move on to the 800 meters on the women's side. Ben, how many over under 2.5 in terms of national title favorites?
Oh man, I think I'm gonna go under. I think it's a two-man. I think it's a two-women show here.
Really? Okay. Please. No, go ahead.
I think it's Haley Kitching and Juliet Whitaker, and I think they have an edge on everyone else in the country. I think there's them, and I think then there's like the Gladys Chepnogeniches of the world, probably Michaela Page as well. But I think there is a clear line of demarcation between Kitching and Whitaker and everyone else.
And that's ultimately what I was trying to get you at. It was kind of like how wide, like how willing are you to say that, like, certain women are national title threats? But I'm going the opposite. I'm going the opposite. Um, I'm going to say that there are 4 national title threats.
Okay.
It's Whitaker, it's Kitching, and I think it's Chepngetich of Clemson. It
Yep.
scares me a lot. That one scares
Yes.
me a ton. And it's Penn State's, not Penn State's. It's Harvard's Sophia Gordierin. So
Oh,
I think
all
she could win
righty.
a national title. I really do. I think I just everything. I am more confident about Gordierin than I am Chepngetich. Chepngetich is the top seed. Um, what you were mentioning with Whitaker and Kitching, I mean, just tactically outstanding. They have the tactics and the fitness. That's what
Yes.
makes the difference. They have both of those things. When you have both of those things, you're going to win a lot of races. Um, Kitching feels like the more sound one of the two, but oh no, do you disagree?
No, I think Kitching just feels like she's at a higher level of fitness than Whitaker right now. Like it feels like she is in most control of her rate, a little bit more in control of her race than Whitaker. I like Whitaker a little bit more, leaning on her national championship experience, and she usually peaks very, very well at
Yep.
the national championship. I just think Kitching, if she's able to run her race, I don't know if there's quite anybody that can touch her right now.
And I partially agree with that. How do you think this race is going to be run?
I think it's gonna be run pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be Sanu Jallo, Chepngetich. Someone's gonna to take it out pretty hard. I think Kitching and Whitaker are gonna hang back. I think Gorier and Page are gonna hang back. And I think where this race could be won or lost is when that secondary pack, if there is a secondary pack, or if it's just that second group, when someone decides to make the move, and if they make it decisively enough, then I think that person could end up being your winner. And if they don't, then I think they could get eaten up and chewed out pretty quickly. But so I really think that's like who that second mover is and when they do it, I think could end up deciding this race.
Yeah, I mean, I think I 100% agree. I think Chepngetich or I think Sanu Jallo, whoever's in the final, is going to 100% push that pace, and that's what would make me a little scared about like who are we kind of
Yeah.
expecting in that to come out on top. But I would agree with you there. Who are your sleepers in this field?
Um, I think I'll go with someone we talked about last week, Anaya Mosley of
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State.
Yep.
She's been really, really good. I think she is someone that now does she have the top end ability to really run with this top group? I don't think so. But if I'm thinking about someone who's going to be able to pick up the pieces as people fall off and end up finishing fourth or something because of that, I think she's certainly a strong contender to do that.
Yeah, 428 mile strength. I mean, you want to talk about someone who could hang on a fast race, fast pace. I mean, she ran 2 flat 0.8 at outdoor nationals in 2024. So yeah, I 100% see that. I was almost going to pick her as well. And frankly, I'm kind of stuck now because like, I don't think I can pick Maeve O'Neill of Providence. I think Maeve O'Neill of Providence is probably too good. She's like the top non sub 2 seed in the field. So I would have said her. I think incredibly sound, balanced, tactically savvy, fast, talented, momentum, but I just don't know where I'm getting like I just struggle with her in terms of like saying that she's a quote unquote sleeper. Veronica Hargrave, if you haven't learned about her now you have like sophomore from Indiana, great last spring, breakout season last spring. Clearly, even like more control of her fitness this season. So if she's if a back end seed's going to get in, and I could see it being her.
Absolutely, absolutely. And continuing our now trend of picking a wild card from the number one seed, I'm going to go with Gladys Chepngetich as the wild card here. I think it's either her or Sanu Jallo, right? Like in terms of hey, like both have immense fitness. How do they put it together? I feel like Jallo has a little bit more boom bust to her, but I think Chepnogorich, in a lot of ways, I think is going to control this race, because I think if she could decide to lead, or she could decide to follow Jalo and kind of pull the rest of the field with her, because they're not gonna want to lose touch of her too much, considering she has run 158 this season. So I think she is like the one of the more variable, or at least one of the biggest X factors in this race in terms of how it plays out.
100%. Don't need to keep going on. Every reason that I would have said for picking those two women is the same reasons as you. So we can move on.
Moving on to the men's 800. And like we said in the DMR, one of the more shocking things was no Colin Sahlman in the 800, which in my mind leaves a party of one as the favorite.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree.
Okay.
It's Handel Robon, Penn State. I think it's pretty clear cut. Listen, we can talk about Handel Robon. 2 144 efforts this season, phenomenal. Just won the Big Ten title over a stacked field. Like we can go on and on and on. Let's chat though about Salman. What on earth was this decision? Did you like this decision?
No, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I will say I did
Did you
I did
dislike it?
I don't dislike it as much now as I did when I first saw it. That's the way I'll answer that. I do think the men's 3K is pretty wide open, and I think it's reasonable to me that him and the NAU staff got together and like, look, the men's DMR is pretty wide open. The men's 3K is pretty wide open. The men's 800 has a clear other top contender. It's going to take a Herculean effort for me to win this. I let's not go after that guy. I get that. At some point though, just run your best event. Just run your best event, and your best event is the 800. And so that's where my frustration comes from a little bit. But I do get like the idea of attack the weaker events. You have a good DMR lineup that could realistically challenge for the title. And in a 3K field with a lot of people doubling back, like he can like his speed should be a big asset in what I don't think is going to be like a lightning fast 3K.
What was more surprising? Salman scratching out of the 800 meters and the mile to do the presumably DMR 3K double, or both Gary Martin and Ethan Strand scratching out of last year's mile field to do the DMR 3K double.
I think that was even more surprising, like the
Yeah.
Strand and Martin, like the fact that they both did it. We were like, hey, maybe one of them will do it. The fact that, and I don't think either of their respective teams thought that the other one was going to do that. And so I'm sure they were just as
Yeah.
surprised to be like, crap, we thought we were going to have a nice, easy win in the DMR. Now we got to go up against the other guy who has run under 350. So yeah, I think that's a little bit more surprising, but yeah, the Salman one did come as quite the shock, and it leaves a vacuum in this 800 where Robon, we said, hey, you're the clear favorite. Who do you think is the clear favorite to finish runner up? Maybe not the clear favorite, but the a favorite.
Real quick, what percent chance would you assign Robon to win the national title?
So 800s, I don't usually like going super high, but I think he has like a 70% chance of winning.
I
I
think he
would
has
be
a
pretty
70%
surprised.
chance. I agree. The favorite for runner up would probably have to be Alan Clay of Penn State.
Yeah, I was gonna say 1-2 Penn State.
I think if Robon's going to control, if Penn State has any ability to understand and know what Robon is going to do in the finals, and like that is such a massive advantage for the guy who's probably going to be favored to win it all. Matsatso, we don't really like. We don't have a reason to dislike him this season, but certain performances, especially at the national stage, whether he hasn't run, just tactically, haven't always been great in certain postseason settings, very specific ones. Clay has been tactically fantastic since last spring. And he's been incredibly talented, aerobically talented this winter. I think it makes sense for him to be the favorite for runner up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think he's like the clear contender. I think Matsatsa. I think maybe you put in Rivaldo Marshall. maybe Matthew Erickson, but that's like he just has not been consistent enough to really definitively put him in as a clear contender for that number 2 spot. Who is your dark horse or sleeper here?
Give me James Harding of Oregon. Love the season that we've had from James Harding. He has a big win over 800 meters on this same track. Should I mention consistent? You know, there's some performances that are better than others, but I think he's positionally great, tactically great, jumping awesome, solid, high floor experience, knows the track. Give me James Harding of Oregon.
I like that pick. The other one that I was gonna go with is Nico Schultz of Penn State, who makes it because Colin Sahlman scratches.
Incredible.
Third place finish at Big Tens. I think if we're talking about, hey, this is the year of the Penn State 800-meter runners, we're talking about, hey, it could be Robon, it could be Clay. I think there's a world where Schultz makes it a complete sweep of the podium and finishes third. He's looked really, really good in more
Do you
championship-like
think a
settings.
1-2-3 scenario in Penn State's at
I
play?
think I think that I do I because I just don't I'm not overwhelmed with my options at 2 and 3 in this field. And hey, if they can get the team tactics down right, I mean potentially you have 3 or 4 guys in this final. I do think that that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Okay. Okay. No, I respect it. I respect it. Who is your dark horse? I'm sorry, not dark
That
horse.
was
Your
yeah.
wild card. Wild card. Yeah.
Brian Quimie of Clemson. I think there's a world like he's flashed a lot of talent, and I like what we've seen from him this year. But I again, you could probably put like a bunch of guys in this group where it's like you could make the finals and finish fourth, or you could not make finals at all, right? And he is someone that I think is square in the middle of all of that.
He's the very clear cut favorite for that answer. 100% agree. I will go with Peter Narumbe of Texas A&M. The guy has not lost an individual race this season, including prelims. He has won 6 straight individual races, including the SEC title over the Arkansas men of Tyrese Taylor and Rivaldo Marshall. He's a freshman from overseas. I just struggle. I'm concerned about inexperience and tactics, and yet he's been so good that I keep being like, like when is he gonna mess up? And he hasn't. And I don't know why I see him more as a wild card, but more like he's seeded 10th, but he could cause a lot of havoc if you are not careful about him.
And traditionally, if you're the SEC champion in the 800, you are highly competitive at the national championship. It is very rare if you qualified for the national meet that you do not compete very, very well. Now, the SEC hasn't been quite at its normal level in the 800, but hey, if he can continue that trend, it would not come as a huge surprise. Let's move on to the final event of the weekend. The women's, we'll start on the women's side. The 3K, the Doris Lemngole and Jade Hedengren show once again. In your mind, Lemngole is still the 1A in the
Yep,
3K? Okay.
she is. Yep.
And then out of this next group, you have a pretty loaded follow-up group, but a lot of them going to be doubling back. One, do you think this race is going to be pretty quick? And two, who do you think can take advantage of whatever the race setting is and finish third?
I think it's gonna. I can't. I think how this race plays out is heavily dependent on how the 5K plays out. Because if Jane again goes from the gun as the aggressor in the 5K and she tries to again be the aggressor and it doesn't work out for her, you would think, one would think that she would be more tactical, that she'd be less aggressive over 3,000 meters. Now, if it does work, like, like if it does work out for her, then why would she not do that in 3K? I think it's the 5K is going to be a heavy influence on how the 3K actually plays out. But in terms of like the next women up, it's probably Selma Albadra,
I
who I
agree.
probably feel the best about just because she's going to be coming off the DMR, no mile prelims, no whatever prelims, no 5K. And I just think she's the best built for this event outside of those two.
Yeah, I mean, you go through the rest of the list and you're like, all right, Yildiz is in probably going to be in a mile final right before. Schoberg, I think, is someone that's in contention, but then the rest of this list is like Chamberlain, mile final, and then after that, it's like, do I really think Hutchins or Kip Corey or Zealand are going to be able to hang? I don't know that I do, so I agree with you. I think it is El Badra as the clear cut number 3. Who is your sleeper in this field?
I don't know if you would define her as a sleeper, but I'm a huge Betty Kipkore fan. I think
Hmm.
Betty Kipkore is awesome. I think she's been having an awesome season. 425 DMR split, 844 in the 3K to upset Pamela Kosgei. Just been running really, really well. I think Betty Kipkore is fantastic. She does not have the 5K. She's not running the 5K, so she'll be running the DMR instead. So the same double as Selma. Everything that you see in terms of the scheduling, in terms of what you've seen from her lately, momentum, wins, consistency, fast times. I like Kipkore a lot.
Give me Pamela Kosgei. Like
Cool.
she's 10th on the
Cool.
performance list. I mean we didn't talk a ton about her in the 5K, but hey, I do think this could be a good event for her in a world where there are a lot of tired legs. I think she's going to be able to recover and bounce back from a 5K. I think she's strong enough to be able to do that pretty well. And I think she's going to be able to capitalize and finish fairly high in this 3K. Yeah, give me Pamela Kosgei. I have her as one of my All Americans in my predictions. Check out where I do have her landing in the StrideReport.com. Wild card. Who do you have?
I struggled on this one. I'm going to go Bila Chipkiri of Oklahoma State.
Mm,
Doubling back from the mile, probably the mile finals, and maybe even the DMR. I think her 845 is crazy impressive, and yet you've seen what she's done this season, and you're like, I think she can run faster, which is a pretty crazy thing to say. And it's like, well, okay, she's doubling, but we think she can run faster, and she's insanely talented, but she hasn't been at her best up until the season. And like, you can go back and forth
mhm.
of like the ping pong match in your head of like, but this, but that, but this, but that. And I think that's what I'm doing with Bila Shakiri, and that's why I think she's a wild card.
Give me Ali Zealand.
Mhm.
I think she's been very good. I think there's a potential she finishes. She does maybe lay claim to that number 3, number 4 spot. I am curious to say, and she should be coming into this very fresh. I also am curious to just see how she stacks up in a national championship field against all these heavy hitters. Granted, with tired legs, I think there's some variability there. I am very curious to see what we get out of the young Liberty star this weekend. Let's move on to the final event on the men's side, the 3K, where we have how many favorites?
Uh, we
4?
have
3?
four, four, four.
Yep. So this similar group as the 5K, Margot
Can I list
Langen.
them for you? Who I
Yeah,
think
go
yours
ahead.
are? I'm pretty sure. I mean, I
Yes.
think we have the same four. I think
Yep,
it's
I agree.
Hampton Samuel of New Mexico. No?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yes.
Marco Langen, Villanova.
Yes.
I think it's Colton Sands of North Carolina,
Yep.
and I think it's Colin Solomon of Northern Arizona.
You got it. Those are the 4. I think Sahlman, for me, is probably the top guy. I think that's I didn't expect to see him in this race, as we mentioned, but you look around, I don't think anybody's running away from him, and I just don't see anybody be able to beat him when it comes down to the finish.
Yeah, even though he beat Cootie by like 0.05 second or
Right, but Cootie's gonna
0.004
have a
whatever.
mile, like, the mile final in his leg,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Presumably.
That's true. And that's true with like a lot of this, like Langen doubling, Sands doubling, Kitchen doubling, Cootie doubling. In fact, are all Balazis is not doubling. Beer Bomb's coming off the DMR, and
Hamlin.
Hamlin's not. to her every way, but like these are all back end seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think Sahlman might be the outright favorite. I don't know if I'd give him more than like a 2% edge on the next best guy, but like I do see him as probably a little bit of the favorite. How do you think this race plays out?
I think someone will probably take it. I wouldn't be surprised to see if it's like a kitchen, like pushes the pace a little bit early, just to kind of wear out the guys that are doubling back from the mile prelim and just see what everybody else has got doubling back from the 5K. Could see him pushing the pace. I don't think it's going to be very quick. I think the time is probably going to be like a 749,
Yep.
750 kind of performance would be my guess. And I just think that's right up the wheelhouse of a Sahlman, a Langen, a Sands. Like I am a little bit more worried about Samuel in this kind of race than I am about the 5K. I think you have a lot of heavy hitters in terms of strong kicks in this field, and I just unless Samuel or unless someone really wants to make people hurt early, I don't think we're gonna see anything that's gonna really run the kick out of those legs.
Could Simeon Beerbaum win the national title?
I think there's an outside shot. I think he's been very good. I think pretty underrated. That's one of the reasons I like the Oregon's DMR a lot, is I think he's going to provide a lot to that team. I there's probably at least a 5% chance that he wins a national title.
Okay. Okay. In terms of sleepers, who do you like?
Well, I mean, I think you hit on one of them, right?
Yeah.
In Beer Bomb, certainly. Let's go with another Oregon guy though, with Blazes,
Oh,
who, like you said, coming in fresh. I think there's not going to be a lot of fresh legs to go around, and I think he could end up breaking into that top three, top four just by hey, like I know I've said this for a couple people, but picking up the pieces of people who are just going with that hard move in the last like 3 or 4 laps.
not who I would have picked, although his seat time initially did surprise me when he ran it. Mine is going to be Jesse Hamlin. I think he's one of the most underrated 3K runners in the country, period. Insane range, 148 to 1327. In the 5K, he's run 743 this season, then 745, then 739. Like he won a trio of Big East titles in the mile, 5K, and 4x8. Like he's going to be fresh. He's experienced. He's been an All American in the 3K, not just once before, but I believe twice before, I want to say. Yeah, he was seventh in 2023, and he was maybe I just lied. Maybe I made that up. Maybe he was only just an All American once before. But regardless, oh no, he was an All American over 5,000 meters, eighth place in 2024. So in the spring. So yeah, I just like Hamlin. I think with everyone else doubling, guys being inexperienced, not having his range, and just the success that he's had recently, I'm almost going to be surprised if Hamlin isn't an All American.
It's totally fair. As far as a wild card, I'm actually going to go with someone who is a favorite, and I think it's Halfton Samuel in a lot of ways. I think this race could turn on what he decides to do here. If he tries to push the pace, because I think if he doesn't, I think there's a world where he is a back end All American instead of a front half All American. And I think if he does push the pace, I think that could change the complexion of who's able to win and who's not able to win, depending on what he does. So I think he has the keys in terms of the results of this race in his hands.
I mean, I think that's true. I think that's frankly true, even a little bit in the 5K.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to cheat a little bit and say not one, not two, but five guys. I'm saying anyone in an
Yeah.
Oregon singlet. When you have five guys in a
It's
national youth
crazy.
final, especially if it ends up slow enough, I mean, you want to talk about team tactics. There's five
Yeah.
dudes in here. Like, there's literally anyone they can pack together and be like, okay, this one person make a search here, this person keep this person trapped here. It's a very like, not all of them are going to be All Americans, but a lot of them could be, and a lot of it could be
Someone
between
has to
top
be.
8s. Someone's like, I don't want to say statistically, because even statistically, that's not
Statistically,
true.
someone has to be.
No, well, even that's not true. They could all get like the BYU
Yeah,
men in
that's
the
true.
5K
That's
at
true.
the Outdoor Nationals 10K a few years back.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, so Oregon is my wild card effectively.
Yep. Yep. I think that's good. All right. We got through all of them.
We got through all of them.
We made it through any stops and starts that we had at the beginning of this national championship this weekend. Make sure you're paying attention. And we didn't talk about this, but the schedule, they instead of a women's session then a men's session, it's all integrated together. I think it's going to make for a much more fun viewing experience as we move into the normal pre-COVID schedule. And very excited to see that at Arkansas. Always a great track. It's going to be an absolutely great weekend to watch track and field.
Awesome weekend. It's going to be even more fun when you go on the site and you check out. We have previews, by the way, for every distance event, 800, 800 mile, 3K, 5K, DMR. We are analyzing with 3 sentences or less of analysis on every entrant in every distance race for each gender for every division. So go check that out. That's a ridiculous amount. And then on Wednesday, again, at some point, we'll have All-American predictions across all divisions for our writers. Go check that out. We have so much content. And of course, 5-star rating and review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. There's no 5-star area on YouTube, but work with me here. But in the meantime, Ben, that is all I've got.
All right. Well, until next time, Garrett, I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you.